Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Secure Hybrid Multi-Cloud and SaaS. Today's webinar is sponsored by Rubrik and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this especially timely presentation. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. We'll have team members responding to questions in chat throughout this half-hour-long live event, so if you have those questions, get them in there. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources, and I'd especially like to call your attention to a link to get started with Rubrik. Also in there are a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club, where you can get access to Actual Tech Media's great printed resources on technology topics, as well as a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events, and a link to find out about the ATM Decisions Group. So I encourage you to access all those resources now and share them with your friends and colleagues. Now, third, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. So with all that out of the way, let's get to today's fantastic content. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today. We have Daniel Liu, who focuses on product marketing for cloud at Rubrik. We also have Bill Gerling, a manager of technical go-to-market for Rubrik. And Bill will have a discussion with a Rubrik customer, Nate Brooks of the American Family Insurance. So I'm really looking forward to that discussion. Well, Daniel, welcome, and please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. Thanks for the time, everybody. Hey, my name is Daniel Liu. I'm part of the marketing team here at Rubrik. Very excited to be here today to talk to you about securing hybrid multi-cloud and SaaS environments. We're specifically going to be talking about protecting them from cyber attacks and ransomware attacks. And we see more and more customers really talking about this, investing more into the cloud. And as they migrate, they're asking us, hey, how do I secure my data? How do I secure my organization? And so if this is something that you and your team are currently thinking through, well, I hope the next, 30-ish minutes will give you some more insights into what you might want to consider. So here is a quick agenda of what we'll be discussing today. The first thing here, we'll start off with some of the challenges with data protection in the cloud and how it can potentially expose your environment to cyber attacks. Then we'll have special guest Nate Brooks. He's from American Family Insurance, one of our largest customers here at Rubrik, and he'll share his experience dealing with data protection in the cloud. And then we'll end briefly going through how Rubrik helps our customers secure their data. So a lot to go through. Let's get going. But before we do, just wanted to, again, quickly introduce everybody here. My name is Daniel. I mentioned that earlier. I'm part of the product marketing team here at Rubrik. Just in case you've never heard of us, Rubrik is a cybersecurity company. Our mission is to secure the world's data. Next is Bill Gerling. He leads our technical cloud team here at Rubrik. And then finally, I mentioned Nate. He is from AmFam and is the technology service manager over there. We also have folks in chat from Rubrik on the line. So if you have any questions during this presentation, do feel free to just type them away in chat and we'll try to get to them as soon as possible. So let's set up the problem first. The problem is you lack visibility and control of your growing data environment. And this is a direct result of adopting more and more cloud applications. So whether it's platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, you're adopting more and more cloud. And if you're like 80% of the organizations we're talking to, you're adopting one of the big hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, Google. Honestly, though, you're probably adopting more than one of these. You're probably adopting multiple. On top of that, you're heavily invested in SaaS applications like Microsoft 365. So an interesting stat, according to Okta, the average enterprise today, this is pretty interesting, they use over 89 SaaS applications. And then the largest organizations in the world, those with, I don't know, over 4,000 employees, they are averaging over 200 SaaS applications within their organization. Now that's a lot of data, and that's all being generated and stored in the cloud. And this data is some combination of structured data, it could be unstructured, it could be semi-structured. And it just creates a complex distributed environment that your team is responsible for managing, right? But your team is struggling. They're struggling to manage this because they no longer have full visibility and control of all this data. It's everywhere. Different services have different teams looking after various parts of the environment. And they may or may not be fully aligned with how to protect the data, managing backups, setting security policies. So you might have an infrastructure team, they're using some legacy on-prem tool. The cloud is either backed up using cloud native backup tool or some kind of scripting workflow, which is super brittle. And then maybe a SaaS team is using something like an E5 license to back up M365. These different teams have different approaches to backup, maintenance, and recovery. And so that can be a real headache for you and your team. Meanwhile, all the cloud data that's under attack. Last year alone, there's a staggering 70% increase in malicious events across all public clouds. Why? Well, take a look. The attack surface is growing larger. And as you can see, the control points are exposed to the internet. So there's no firewall to break through. There's no layers of perimeter of defense. It's as simple as phishing for the credentials and gaining access, then moving laterally across the organization. Like they say, cyber criminals, they don't break in anymore. They just log in. And so they are really zeroing in on your organization's most critical assets, and that's its data. In fact, an eye-opening stats that I've heard, 93% of ransomware attacks go after the backup data, 93%. And 3 out of 4 times they succeed in getting that data, or at the very least locking it up. And so because of this, your stakeholders, they're asking you, hey, can we recover from a ransomware attack? Prove it to me. I really need to know, especially when I'm working with our auditors. I need to ensure that we are secure and protected. Are we monitoring data risks and exposures across our environment? Can we maintain compliance across our systems, especially at scale, especially as we're starting to move to the cloud? Is this something that we can prove? Now, when customers embark on their journey to the cloud, the first step is often to rely on the data protection solutions provided by the public cloud providers. And while these tools are great and serve as a foundational starting point, at least what we hear from our customers is they frequently express the need for more robust and comprehensive capabilities, especially as their presence in the cloud grows. The challenge with virtually any of these cloud backup tools is that it really resembles legacy backup and recovery systems. There's multiple components requiring a significant amount of manual effort to set up and operate. So let's really delve into the 4 key components that you should really be thinking about as you're developing your data protection strategy in the cloud. And we'll get into some of the challenges as well. So first and foremost, I think the most basic, setting up backups. But given the cloud sprawl we just discussed, establishing a baseline backup across all your accounts, it's hard. It could be quite challenging, right? It's pretty obvious that native tools are not designed for backing up on-premise or multi-cloud data. But even within the same cloud, managing multiple accounts, managing multiple backup policies, it's a very operationally complex process. Moreover, automatically detecting and safeguarding new resources is far from straightforward. It's a highly manual process. Now, once you get backup set up, then comes the work of ensuring that everything is being protected as expected, the ongoing work of kind of the day-to-day. And that's where visibility and compliance becomes critical. Having a single control plane that spans across all your accounts enables you to apply consistent data protection policies. This is super important. With a comprehensive view, you can have confidence in your reporting and auditing as well. And so this is really critical and essential for demonstrating compliance to your auditors. This is something that a lot of folks really struggle with today. Then comes the day you actually need to recover. And again, like I mentioned, 3 out of 4 attacks on your backup data, they succeed. And so unfortunately, it's less about if it'll happen and more about when. And so though it might seem like the most straightforward, it's actually the most complex in terms of recovery, because it can be a slow and manual process to recover your files, especially without the ability to search for specific data. And how do you know what data has been compromised? How do you know how far back to restore? You don't want to be restoring back data that continues to still be compromised. And so it shouldn't take days or weeks or even months to recover, right? It should take hours or less to recover from a ransomware attack. If your organization is shut down for days, weeks, or months, you're losing a lot of revenue, let alone just business processes. Lastly, it's essential to execute all of these tasks cost efficiently, especially considering the current landscape we're in right now, where controlling cloud expenditures is paramount. I hear this all the time. My cloud costs are getting out of control. My CFO is breathing down my neck. To address this, cost controlling features play a pivotal role. They may include strategies like tiering backup data to blob storage, reducing the backup footprint through compression and deduplication. You don't want to keep a ton of your backup data in your primary hot storage where you're paying a much higher rate. You want to be able to tier them to lower cost storage, store them for a long period of time. So these are the 4 components that organizations right now are really thinking through. And so each component has its own unique challenges. And that's just setting up one account, right? The reality is that most organizations, they don't have just one account. They have dozens, if not hundreds of accounts across their environment. Furthermore, each region within these subscriptions is treated as a distinct management point, and you have probably multiple regions as well, which further complicates this process. As you can see here, the situation results in sprawl and a larger attack surface for potential cyber threats. It's a really big operational burden as you move further and further into the cloud. And that's just one cloud. Organizations often find themselves operating in multiple clouds, whether it's through M&A, maybe it's a cloud architect team, they're deciding that we need to be in multiple clouds, or some other factors. There's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to be in more than just one cloud. And so each of these clouds has their own unique tools that you may be using, and so you're using multiple tools to manage multiple accounts across multiple regions, doing multiple things with multiple users. It's a pain. And then finally, what about your on-prem resources? You're probably not 100% in the cloud. You're probably a hybrid. And so you have some on-prem resources that you're still protecting, and you probably have a separate tool for that as well. And then, of course, your SaaS applications that you're adopting, it has data that you probably want to be able to restore and back up as well. So this is the problem. Cloud sprawl, lack of visibility, no unified support and control. This is what our customers are facing today as they are adopting cloud and trying to think through protecting their data. But let me now transition over to our customer, American Family Insurance, with Bill and Nate. I want to give them a time to discuss how they're thinking about cloud data protection over in a real world situation with American Family Insurance. So let me pass it over to you, Bill.
Hey everybody, I am Bill Gerling. I'm a cloud architect and a manager here at Rubrik. I work on a new product launch team, and I am joined by Nate Brooks. Nate is a technology services manager at American Family Insurance. Nate, thank you so much for joining us here today. If you don't mind, would you just give the audience a little bit of background on yourself, on American Family Insurance, on the team that you work on there?
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me. So I'm a product owner of a group at American Family Group that is responsible for managing our systems across platforms. So what that really means is if something should run the same way across both public and private clouds, my team tries to enable those services. We've been doing this for about a year and a half across our different public cloud providers and our private cloud data centers across the United States.
Awesome. And I've been doing a little bit of reading about your organization. It seems like you've got a big cloud migration initiative that you've been speaking at industry events around cloud adoption and some of your patterns there. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind, could you please just give the audience some details about your environment, which clouds you use, maybe some what services you consume, what some of your operating patterns are with regards to public and hybrid cloud today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been seeing a unified approach from all our business units to try to move to a cloud smart kind of mentality when developing their applications for their businesses. So not everyone's trying to go to the public cloud, but there is a unified drive to use it in intelligent ways. So what we've seen is in the public cloud space, we've seen about we've seen a very large shift to use developer forward mentality in the public cloud. So that's brought about 500 Amazon accounts into bear in our environment. We also selectively use Microsoft Azure for our VDI workloads and Google Cloud for a lot of our AI, big data, machine learning type of algorithms that we use in our industry.
What do you think it is out there in the market that is driving enterprises to adopt these hybrid and multi-cloud architectures in lieu of, say, a single cloud?
I think one of the biggest things is the right place at the right time for the right workload. So now with the extreme simplicity of public cloud's ability to provision resources at rapid scale, those are some things that the private cloud hasn't facilitated as simply. So serverless and microservices architectures has really enabled the rapid development of an innovation in the public cloud. We also see more what we call full stack developers, which are groups that really just want to run and innovate and have as little barriers to entry as possible when developing their new applications to be disruptive in the industry. So we see and enable our developers to do those sorts of things where it makes sense for them.
I would ask, does the dynamic nature of your consumption model now make it more challenging to implement secure architectures or secure operating patterns, at least more difficult than it was when, say, you were just administering a single set of services in the data center?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know backing up and protecting systems is nothing new, right? Now we have to facilitate the same thing across environments where a group might spin up 1,000 servers in a day. Right? How do you possibly capture all that at one time, especially in the ephemeral nature of a lot of the workloads we deal with? So it is very challenging. And, again, with the developers rapidly delivering services and servers across the environments, having a kind of unified way to secure those, govern what's happening, look at the observability of what's going on has been extremely important for us to, take a grasp on, because just because it's somewhere, the data is somewhere else does not mean that we can't protect it. It's non-negotiable for us.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you are using many platforms and many services, and that does inherently introduce, risk of misconfiguration. You're ceding some control to the developer types, but you've compensated for that by introducing tooling and processes that helps you sort of mitigate that risk in this new operating model, this new sort of cloud posture. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like what sort of tools are you using to achieve that in when you're operating in 3 public clouds and you've still got kind of a legacy data center footprint? What types of tools, what types of processes are you using? How do you get your arms around that?
Yeah, I think when we started our journey, we focused a lot on what we call cloud native technologies, which are technologies that each public cloud provider provides to enable a traditional thing like logging, monitoring, alerting, backup. And what we found is that with each of those, it's another operating model our developers would need to learn. So in Amazon, using Amazon Backup or all these other facilities, but that same developer group might have to manage or don't have to manage their protection in the data center. So I have application team A managing services that reside in public cloud 1, public cloud 2, and on-prem data centers. Now they need to do a DR test, and they need to make sure and prove, hey, all my applications are backed up. Now they have to go to 3 different tools, 3 different clouds to get that same data, right? So we've been really focusing on agnostic tooling that can span public and private clouds to operate in a singular way, right? So a singular control plane to observe what's happening across and at scale, which what we have to deal with over 500 Amazon accounts. Not each team wants to have to manage their individual backups or observe things, right? So we leverage tagging heavily to identify and correlate things as well in our public cloud. And then we also rely really heavily on automation, self-service, and APIs throughout the environments to ensure consistency and normalize processes.
The more you normalize your tooling and the more you standardize your processes across these different platforms, the more likely you are to avoid having gaps in your posture or things that are not properly, say, encrypted or monitored or protected or what have you. You mentioned data protection specifically. I was curious, like relative to cyber resilience, what are some standard like data protection practices that you feel like organizations operating with your sort of cloud footprint should consider pursuing or implementing? Like, how do you best position yourself technically against these threat actors in today's market?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The threat landscape is evolving daily. Bad actors are coming up with new ways to exfiltrate data. The insurance industry is heavily targeted for this, as well as many others. But I think right now we focus on what people throw around the word zero trust a lot, right? It's becoming like DevOps or one of those other things where people just say it and they're like, oh, that's going to solve all my problems. But what DevOps or what zero trust really means to us is having as much security built around our data resiliency as possible, right? So we take a lot of the guesswork out of it for our users and make sure that once something is protected, it can't be changed. So immutability is key for us. Rubrik, provides ability to put in that role-based access control and as close to zero trust, across the environment as we're able to implement. So those have been really big things for us. Again, and the extensibility with the APIs in Rubrik allow us to really lock down what changes can be made to the platform, right? We don't allow changes in our environment. No one can change a policy. A developer can't say, oh, I really want, this backup to be held for 4 years when we're like, nope, you need to keep it for just 30 days because of this policy. So we can, in broad strokes, lock things down to make sure they adhere to all of our policies and obligations that we have.
How has Rubrik helped you get from a position where you felt like you were maybe less well positioned against these threat actors in today's landscape to this current position where you feel like you've got a better handle on your cyber resiliency?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different aspects, but I think again, unified control plane of seeing, to attest to, I know everything we have is protected in a certain way.
Right.
I think that's been really key for us. The scale and onboarding rapidly of multiple accounts has been really helpful. So we can onboard hundreds of accounts in the same way and just have a unified approach to the delivery of onboarding those systems. Being able to use immutable storage, being able to have file level recovery within our objects that we have in the public cloud, and then the increasing number of services that Rubrik is onboarding, across the different public clouds as, their product matures and aligns with the things that are being used in the industry. Those are some of the main things that I think we see the platform providing to us. And then, the reporting and simplicity and automation of the entire platform has been really helpful through our mandates of automation and coding everything.
Awesome. Sounds like the right tool for the right job in your multi-cloud estate. Look, I'd just like to thank you first for being a Rubrik customer. first and foremost. We appreciate you partnering with us. It means a lot, and we know that you've got a lot at stake in your environment. Secondly, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this session today, and I look forward to working again together in the future.
All right. Not a problem. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Nate. It's always great to hear from a practitioner who's going through this. So we started off the conversation today with the idea that your attack surface is growing. You're moving into the cloud, you're adopting more cloud services, and your attack surface needs protecting. You need a tool that can help unify protection across all these services. You need to cyber-proof your cloud applications. And when something goes wrong and you need to recover your data, you need to be able to do it rapidly and with little downtime. All of this, by the way, with an eye towards cost efficiency. Rubrik Security Cloud, we do this. This is our bread and butter. Rubrik, again, is a cybersecurity company. Our mission is to secure the world's data. We do this with Rubrik Security Cloud. It's a single SaaS control plane. It unifies all your resources, whether on-prem, in the cloud. We connect via API to your cloud subscriptions and accounts, all of them. And we provide complete cloud data protection. So how do we think about this, and what is the value that we offer you? Value number one, simple unified protection. Again, managing that cloud sprawl. You don't need to go to 50, 100 different management points to protect your data. With Rubrik, it's just one. What underpins Rubrik is our data protection policies. So with these policies, you can set up backup policies, retention policies, how replication gets done, how tiering gets done. It's all done through, again, a single control point. And once it's set up, it's automatically applied even to new resources as they get spun up. These policies get automatically applied based on how you set them up and will auto-discover new resources to apply to. Nothing gets out of sync. And we can even integrate to tools like Terraform to streamline the process even further. Value two is security. It's complete cyber resilience. We make the backup data immutable and logically air-gapped and enforce strict RBAC controls. So for example, we can replicate data from one account or one region to a completely different account or region. And that can be controlled by you. It can be controlled by Rubrik. It's really up to you. And these are all governed by different credentials. So the day that you're attacked with, you're hit with an attack, the bad actors, they can't get access to the data or modify the data. You're safe, and that's critical. And heaven forbid, you do get attacked. Everybody knows when that day happens, they'll know where to go, what to do, because again, it's a single point of how to recover. Our recovery workflow is identical, whether you're recovering, AWS RDS, Azure VM, your on-prem Oracle database, it's the same workflow. We have file level recovery and searchability capabilities so that you recover exactly what you need, not more, not less, not wasting your time, really minimizing that RTO. Every minute counts when trying to recover from backup, getting your business back and running. And lastly, value four, lower TCO. Compared to the native backup tools, we can reduce the resource costs needed to back up, maintain, and restore data. How we accomplish this is a bunch of different ways, but one of the core aspects is we use different storage tiers than the native tools. So for example, we can take your data, whether they live on-prem, whether they live in the cloud, and we can archive it to object store like S3 or Azure Blob, while still maintaining the same RTO. So oftentimes customers don't even need to find new budget for this. You can take the budget we're spending right now with cloud resources, and the savings that we provide more than covers the cost of Rubrik. So, summarizing and closing out this presentation, you're expanding into the cloud. You're finding it harder and harder to protect this growing attack surface. Cloud sprawl, silos among your data owners. This threat landscape is rapidly expanding and the cloud has become the preferred target. Your job is harder. You're having to control everything. You're having trouble getting a baseline backup across your environment. It's hard to maintain improved compliance. Everything is manual and slow to back up and recover. And, costs are going up and you really have been tasked to really think through and control those costs. Rubrik Security Cloud is a data security platform that keeps your data secure, monitors your data risk, and quickly recovers your data wherever it lives. This is the solution that really helps you ensure you have that data resilience. If you're in the midst of a cloud migration or struggling with cloud data protection, we'd love to chat more. We'd love to learn how you're doing it and what you're struggling with, see how we might be able to help you. But other than that, that's the end of the presentation. Hopefully this discussion gave you some useful insights to move the needle forward for you guys. Hopefully allowed you to better understand how to secure your hybrid multi-cloud and SaaS environment and data. Happy to take questions over chat. Otherwise, go to our website. We have a bunch of information there, more white papers, data sheets, videos. You could also request for a team member to reach out to you directly to answer questions. Thank you guys so much for taking the time today. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. Well, thanks, Daniel, Bill, and Nate. Great discussion with some really interesting stats and valuable insights there. I knew I'd learned something from this one, and you guys really delivered. All right. Well, before we wrap up, we have one more piece of business. It's the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card is Wolf Rohde from North Carolina. So congratulations to Wolf Rohde. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And thanks everybody for all your comments and questions during the presentation here. I see some kudos here from Chris and from Jeanette about what a great presentation this has been. Couldn't agree more. But thanks for that feedback. All right. Well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I do want to thank Rubrik for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending and for your great questions. That concludes today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day.